what the IPS wrote to the government. That all mental health services, including residential services for mentally retarded, should be required to obtain license under the Mental Health Act, and regardless of whether these facilities are publicly or privately owned. This particular communication was sent to me by one of the senior IPS members. I do not actually have a copy of it. So if this is, I don't have the provenance of this document. So this is the position in 2001. If I can move to the next slide, please.
Okay.
In 2010, the IPS President sent a letter in February 2010, which basically said there is a twin need to encourage treatment and care settings as well as regulate the functioning so that human rights abuses do not occur. And the next phrase which he used was regulation of the centers if persons are kept against their free will. So this is what in 2010 was the IPS position again. I'll leave the slide on for 30 seconds more so people can actually read the whole of it. Can I move to the next slide, hello?
You're on the next slide.
Okay. In 2010 October, the IPS sent another one letter to the ministry, and in that it said there must be licensing or registration procedures for mental health treatment facilities. And it said now it says the general hospital psychiatric units, whether they are private or government sector, should be exempt from registration or licensing. And what I've underlined there, which we've already done, which is general hospital or general nursing home should be covered under any one of the establishment rules. We already covered them. That's what we've done now in the current draft bill. And it also said that long-term care institutions in private or government sector, teaching and non-teaching hospitals should be covered under the Act. So this is in 2010. If I can move to the next slide, please.
Soumitra, it's me again, Anirudh Khanna.
Yes, sir.
See, there is, I don't think, there will be too much of benefit by going over documents which are many years old, because there are many people here who have never heard of them, and we do not know who actually drafted them, and we don't actually have access to those documents also. No, okay, you wanted the next slide.
Well, sir, I understand that, but what I'm trying to say is that this is what the IPS writes as its formal position. So, while I understand that many of you do not have access to those documents, and I only have access to the documents because they were copied to me at various times. But that is what is the only way to know what the IPS's position is.
Soumitra, you have pointed it out, and I would be the first person to accept this, that there was a gap during the initial year and a half of this consultative process when IPS could have, been a better participant or a more active participant in the process, and it didn't. I'm the first one to acknowledge that. Now, tell me, even at this late stage,
Yes, sir.
even at this late stage, is it possible for have a proper half-day, one-day consultation of the stakeholders, including the IPS, before the bill goes to the cabinet? After all, Mental Health Act, the current one, has served us reasonably well for 22 years, so why not 22 and a half years?
So you know very well that I would not be in a position to give any kind of assurances on behalf of the ministry. That's whether the ministry is willing to hold a proper consultation again with various stakeholders. I'm not aware of that. So I cannot speak on their behalf.
No, you
but
can't.
What I can.
You can't. Is it theoretically possible, according to you?
Sir, I think it is theoretically possible, but I would in fact, the only concern that I would have is that at this stage what will happen is that if you make some changes, I would imagine that they would probably be minor changes rather than major changes. The question is whether there are major changes required. like for example, in terms of the registration procedure, would major changes be required? And don't forget, sir, if just like there's a group of stakeholders called the IPS and the psychiatrists, there are also equally a different group of stakeholders who are equally unhappy because they feel that this is too lax a bill and would like to see it tightened up. So there is always a risk that once you open the door for that debate, then again it can sway whichever way.
Soumitra, there is an impression here that the government scares the psychiatrists with activists, activists with psychiatrists.
So there is a question of playing anyone with anyone. The point is everyone has their own point of view, and I have not seen the activists, or at least a section of the activists at all move from their position. And in terms of the psychiatrists, so there are some positions which have not moved, and there are some positions which have moved. I don't think that it is possible to play one off against the other at all. I mean, I think that's just a bit unfair. Actually, it's not that I'm involved in.
No, you're not involved. No, see, the thing is that, frankly, I don't think that there will be, problems with processes like registration, which, almost everybody feels that is fairly liberal. You now know by now what the concerns, and you also know that there was a gap in the consultative process where, the fault lay is another matter. But, the government is going ahead with this bill with less than proper participation from the professional bodies of psychiatrists. If I put like that.
Okay, I'm not trying to defend the government, but I'm trying to state what happened in terms of the process. Sir, you've been part of the process and you know it very well too, that at every stage and at every draft, not only were psychiatrists in their individual capacity asked to come, but even the regional office bearers and the national office bearers of the IPS were involved. I think it's easy to, I can understand what you're saying that, well, the IPS did not participate very well. But how does one convince that to anybody? Because it becomes very difficult. And what I would get into, I would in fact ask you a different question is, what are the specific things at the moment that the IPS really believes, okay, this is something that is just unacceptable, or this is something where we would like a change, or this is something where, fine, this is unacceptable, but with the following changes we could live with. I think let's get down to those issues, because I'm still not clear what are those issues, because if you see the April document also has 18 different issues that they have listed. So it might be a good idea to actually try and list those 2 or 3 key issues which you think are bothering people the most.
Okay. Now, you have a specific question from Dr. Narayan.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Dr. Pathare.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah. You have told that State Mental Health Authority, there is one representative from the government psychiatrist and one from the private sector.
Yes.
Yes, not in the government service. But
That's right.
what we find in Central Mental Authority, there is no representation of psychiatrists from private sector.
Correct, because the Central Mental Health Authority effectively only regulates the 3 central mental hospitals.
Yeah, central but it will also frame out the norms and procedures and other things for the registration of the mental health facility all over India.
No, sir, that has been left to the State Mental Health Authority.
No, but the main norms and procedure will be decided by the Central Mental Health Authority. And
No, sir. Sir, look, it's very clear. The CMHA and SMHA are independent of each other. The SMHAs are not subsidiary to the CMHA.
yeah. And the other thing which was not pointed out earlier, you have got representation of the Association of the Caregivers or Families, but no representation of Association of Psychiatrists in the Mental Health Authority.
So the idea of having a representation of the caregivers was, instead of individual caregivers, we had an association. So there are no individual caregivers or individual people represented. So whereas with in terms of the psychiatrist, the way it has been drafted is that it is individual people who are representing them. Now we can always remove the individual representation and move it only to the representative bodies to represent it. I thought that it made more sense to actually allow individual psychiatrists to be part of the state mental health authority.
Okay, now.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
If I'm hearing you correctly, and the sense that I'm getting is that if there are issues that the IPS or as individuals or as part of the professional body that we have, that we should be writing to you and to the Ministry of Health to see what it is that can be done about this.
Yes.
While overall, sort of root and branch review may not be possible, some changes are still possible. So we will put that forward to the IPS and see. So thank you very much, Soumitra, for joining us. Thank you for your participation, and thank you for, despite being unwell, for spending this time with us. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Alok. It's my pleasure, and I'm really sorry. I wish I was there. I would have enjoyed this even more. But you have a good conference, and I hope everyone has a good evening tonight too.
Thank you. Take care, and
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Bye.
So maybe we take another 3-4 questions because there are other panelists. Maybe for there's some clarification. Yeah. Just name yourself and then stand up and then ask your question.
Aditya Subramaniam, Manasa Bangalore and NHS Scotland. We've had a new mental health act in Scotland for 7 years, and we've had the patient directives. We have not had a problem with patient directives. They're very rare, and in practice we've had absolutely no problem. There's been one death in England, so I think we're getting our knickers in a twist. And I do appreciate that it doesn't apply in emergency. So if you've got someone dying that requires ECT, then you can give it. It's never been a problem, and I think patient thing is not a tool for us. It's a tool for the patient, and it's a tool for the patient to engage with the mental health service that isn't possible otherwise. And I think to oppose patient directives is a fairly paternalistic thing to do, and we have to be careful, because I think we're getting worried about unnecessary stuff. Case law will reveal that these are going to be very rare. Patients aren't that well informed, and they are increasingly rare. And in India, it's going to be far less common. Outside the NCR and Chandigarh, we're not going to have a problem.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. In fact, I think actually that I need to respond to that. The issue is not is being against patient rights. In fact, as part of, I would actually stand very strongly for patient rights. But there are two issues to this. One issue is this, that societal change does not happen because of legislation. Okay. In various societies, because of different voices, legislative change happens. The advanced directives came across or came into being because of strong user voices. What we are doing in India is the reverse process. We are creating a legal provision where there is no demand for it. The issue is that even in the West, where that legal provision exists, it is used, as you quite rightly said, very minimally. There is a rather strong body of literature which says that even in those places where it is used, the fact that it actually leads to those hopeful goals being fulfilled is yet to be proved. There is also a rather strong body of work not in the medical journals, but in the legal journals, which shows of very messy legal wrangling created by the advanced directives. Okay? So the issue is not as to whether advanced directives are good or bad. The issue is that advanced directives are a well-intentioned tool with an unproven result. Ideologically, I have no difficulty with them. Practically, I have a question. So for us to be putting into our legality tools from the West, which have not been proven in the West, seems to me not quite wise. there is another aspect which is the advanced treatment planning. Now, advanced treatment planning has a different dimension of it. And also we must realize that many things that we do have consequences.
Alok, I think you made your point, right? Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Before that, there is another person. Yeah, please.
I'm sorry to say that I'm not a doctor. I'm a lawyer. President of Indian Psychiatric Society invited me to attend this particular conference. I'm a lawyer practicing at Cochin. I'm engaged with this formulation of this particular bill in the Kerala state. First of all, I have to raise a important point regarding the advance directive. We the lawyers seriously doubt about the genuineness or the very intention of this advance directive. It's not practically possible in this country because you know the Evidence Act. Evidence Act will not permit a person to give a consent if that person do not have the invalid mental state. How you will prove that this person consented or given this advance directive at that particular moment? One thing. Then second thing, you are making a big risk by giving right to the patient by giving right to give a prescription to you. You are allowing a patient to enter into your sphere. You are saying that he can dictate, he can say. One provision even say that he can say he will not allow you to treat. He can refuse the treatment. What do you mean by that? It's a very risky situation. In another manner, from the lawyer's perspective, I will say that even in the present situation, the Mental Health Act and the Civil Procedure Code and the Criminal Procedure Code, there are a lot of manipulation from the relatives of the mentally ill persons. They are taking undue advantage of the law and making this particular law for managing the properties. But unfortunately, in the proposed Mental Health Care Bill 2012, the chapter itself is deleted.
I think for both these provisions, actually the Mental Health Care Bill addresses them. So as far as finance and property is concerned, the advanced directives are not part of that. Secondly, as far as refusal of treatment is concerned, advanced directives are not part of that. In a sense, actually, that limits the use of the advanced directives. So, see, the advanced directives is actually a huge and complex. It's not as simple as it is.
But it is not binding.
Okay,
Sure, it's not binding anywhere in the world.
Sorry, Alok, I have to take a couple of other questions. Are you over? Is it okay?
No. Then
Maybe another 30 seconds or so? Because there are many more hands, right? Yeah, please.
Okay. Then the question about the informed consent. What do you mean by informed consent? How a consent by a invalid person or unsound mind person can be valid? And how you can treat a person based on a consent given by a psychiatrically ill person? That will give lot of risk to the psychiatrist. Then another point regarding the confidentiality point in section 24 and the communication in 26. That is not realistic to the ground reality of this country. Then provision for provisional certificate within 10 days. How you can give a certificate within 10 days without any verification to a mental health facility, without any inquiry? The section 66(4) says that there will be a provisional certificate within 10 days without any inquiry. Whether it is wise in this country. Then another regarding the nominated representative. In the Mental Health Act, previously in the 87 and the Civil Procedure Code and the Criminal Procedure Code, there are a lot of provisions for giving nomination of representative, the guardian of a person. These are done by the district court after a very long due process of law and due litigation. But here it's very simple. And how we can assure that this will not get manipulated. Then you see this can be only challenged in the High Court. This is not a practical solution to this country. A High Court is not accessible to millions of people here in this country. So giving a law which can work in the metro cities will not be applicable to the rural area in this country.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate your concern. Thank you. Yeah, please.
Dr. Sharma from Hyderabad. Going to the roots of the problem, I asked whether psychiatry is not a branch of medicine at all. If it is a branch of medicine, why special rules for this? We should be free to administer any treatment. After all, if some problem is arising, there can be black sheep in any profession. Then our IPS is there to look after that, like Medical Council of India. So why this special?
Let me not be a good example to raise at the moment, but see, the issue is not whether most people do a good job. The fact is that either we can argue that no mental health act should exist.
Not necessarily, sir.
Which
We
is-
should IPS first try to remove this.
Sure.
As far as.
Sure, and that's a much larger and much more contentious debate, because that's actually the position which most activists are.
Otherwise, we become defensive practitioners, sir.
Yeah.
Which is not good for the patient population at all.
Human rights of psychiatrists.
Yes, exactly.
I think we leave that question there. And are there one or two more questions? Maybe maximum we can take two more. Otherwise, then I have to sort of wind up because.
The lady is very anxious.
Sorry, I didn't say.
Relax.
Okay.
Sit out.
Dr. Kala want to make the last bit, then we'll close this session.
First is a specific comment about the advanced directives. Apart from what has already been said about advanced directives, see, the objection to advanced directives in a society like ours, introducing a whole new thing, is also a conceptual thing. And one has to look at the mental health services reality, who looks after the patients anyway. It is the families. The 90% of the care burden of the looking after the mentally ill, the brunt of the burden is borne by the families. And here we have a whole new law which puts family and the patient, pitches them on adversarial positions. So my problem is that this is more of a conceptual issue. So far, nothing is there. We are introducing something which has a potential of becoming bigger and creating problems, in addition to solving some problems also. Advanced directives can also be misused, as has been obliquely mentioned. I come from Punjab. Most disputes are about landed property. For a brother, it is his interest that his younger brother doesn't get well. And he might manipulate advanced directives. He says he doesn't want to get admitted. Here is what he wrote. That becomes an advanced directive. He doesn't want him to get well, actually. Now, that apart, the second point that I want to make is that this process started 3 years back. IPS actually has been at fault. For an year and a half, there was almost no participation. We were riding a high horse, and I think there are lessons to be learned.
In case
Out of this
if
process.
I can add a word here, because one of this meeting took place in Chandigarh, where I was supposed to be coordinating on the behalf of the ministry. At that time, I did like that, and this is the stage where IPS should join, right? I did request the office bearers of the IPS, some of the message that the IPS is boycotting all these regional consultative meetings. I think by boycotting this meeting, what we have achieved, we are losing the ground, because those 1.5 years were very crucial.
See, that regional consultation meeting that Dr. Chavan is talking of was held in a city where the IPS president lived and worked, and he was there in the town that day. He didn't return. What do you do about that? So the government has
This is my request.
The government has some justification.
I think this is must be the best debated, best argued, and best attended symposium. And I can claim that in next 3 days we can't have the best sort of discussion than we had this. And though we cannot reach to a consensus, but at least some of the things got cleared, and we were able to sort of express our views. And at this stage, though, Dr. Kala did say that it's quite late, and Dr. Sumitra also feels this quite late, but I still see that while the interaction you had with Dr. Sumitra, there's some scope that at least some few points, we can't make a list of 16 or 18 points as we did in the last IPS letter, but maybe we can zero down and try just 2 or 3 points. Maybe there's some scope.
Can we assign responsibility to somebody?
I don't think this can, but maybe the president, I can request the president and the.
I think
But
Alok has been in consideration.
fine, but
He has been a part.
but my point,
Few of the discussion taken place today.
I
If we can request
I respect your sentiment, but I feel that it should come from the office bearer, president and the secretary.
Yes.
And I can put forward the points raised by. Yes, that's what I.
We will request Dr. Indira Sharma,
I can request, you can request, but the word should come from that.
but
It is not.
somebody should take the responsibility from this group
Yeah, yeah.
to put in black and white all
Sure,
the
sure.
suggestions which have come
Sure,
today.
sure.
So
Yes,
that
sir.
they can be given to ITS president.
Right.
Sir, I have-
Thank you.
sir, I have full-
Thank you very much, and I respect all the panelists and the audience for staying for long. Thank you very much.
Sir, I have full video recording. Anybody who want, I can give full,
Free of cost?
free of cost.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Give your email.